Good evening, everybody. It's Friday night. It's Monte's own time with me, Monteban, and some special guests this evening. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to G-Star. Hello, G-Star. You're all still muted. Yeah, I know. I always forget that every time. Hello. It gets me every single time. Good evening. So this evening I'm joined with my normal co-host G-Star and our very, very special guests, Dan, Godwin, and Ben. You just told me a surname a minute ago.
Walgate.
Walgate. Thank you very much. And tonight, this evening, we will be talking all things Bigfoot and Sasquatches. And
Wildman.
And Wildman and the legend of the Wildman. And that's not something that I know a great deal about. So we've got some experts on to help us this evening.
That's right. Ben joins us from the 401 Files. You want to tell us a little bit about your channel, Ben?
Yeah, certainly. So for the last 3 years, I've been getting out onto the North Yorkshire moors, which is a 250 square mile area of open moorland. It's also a very big hotspot for wildman sightings, extraterrestrials and UFOs. So I spend a lot of my time out there camping, talking to my audience about these things.
Very cool. And it's not his first time joining us as a guest, but we've got Dan from his YouTube channel, Daniel Godwin, and the Devon UFO group. Hi, Dan.
Hi, G.
I imagine up at the north of England, camping out on that moorland, that must be the best place in the entire country for that sort of thing, I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the light pollution out there is next to none, so when you're out there under them stars, you just get like, especially with it being moorland, that it's not a built-up forested area, you can see for as far as the eye can see, and the stars out there are amazing, so...
Yeah, I bet the night sky is absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Welcome to all the guys on chat joining us.
Yeah, D-Bot. I wasn't expecting D-Bot to be on this evening. I know she's been having some internet connection issues today, so it's good to have you on board, D. Thank you for popping along. And Becky, good to see you too. Mickey, good evening to you. I'm surprised you haven't had enough of me already. Mickey joined me, I think, for my whole Fortnite live stream last night. And, thanks for coming along. Thank you, everyone in chat.
Obviously can't get enough of your dulcet tones.
I know. Yeah, I don't think that's it. Yes, and Roger has joined us, and he's pointed out that today is a special day. It's not only are we talking about Bigfoots, which, you know, is kind of special in itself, but it's Ben's birthday. So if we could have lots of happy birthdays in the chat.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to see lots of birthdays in the chat. And
we're doubly honoured to have you join us.
We are. Yeah. And I forgot to say hello to Smiler, my wrench, as well in the chat there. Thanks for being here. I actually, I just popped away from my desk just as this stream starts and accidentally dropped a wine bottle in the kitchen that smashed everywhere. Smile has just been frantically cleaning up all the glass. I'm just causing carnage wherever I go, really. Yes, sorry, Smiler, for that frantic 5 minutes. Yes. So, G, do you want to kick us off with our Bigfoot journey this evening?
Yeah, indeedy. So I'm going to come at this to start off with as if, most of the guys watching don't know a huge amount about the background of Bigfoot and the history. So going to come at it from a bit of a layman's way, but hopefully there's some people that are going to join us along the way that know a little bit more stuff, like our two guest speakers this evening. But anyway, so yeah, what I was going to do is just do a bit of a quick overview of all the different schools of thought around Bigfoot. Now, obviously, we're saying Bigfoot a lot, but it's known by different names all around in different places of the world. Each continent has, and a lot of different countries have its own kind of mythology around a similar kind of creature, if you want to call it that. So you've got like in North America they call it Sasquatch, and in areas of America they call it Bigfoot as well. But you've got the Yeti as well in the Himalayas. You've got the Wildman in a lot of areas of Europe and the UK. You've got the skunk ape. You've got many different types all around the world. So first and foremost, but we're talking more about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and Wildman this evening. So just to give a bit of an overview of all the different schools of thought for Bigfoot. Oh, I think we've lost Ben.
Yeah, I think Ben is dealing with some internet issues. I think it could. I think he's in a bit of a he's out in the sticks and doesn't have a particularly good internet reception. So he might be popping in and out.
So yeah, going back to what I was saying anyway. So first of all, you got one school of thought which is around cryptozoology. So that puts it very much in the sort of same family as like Loch Ness and Megalodon, where it's believed that Bigfoot is a sort of standalone creature or monster that has survived the sort of passage of known evolution. And is maybe a long-lived creature as well. So that's one school of thought around primarily cryptology. The next school of thought is that Bigfoot Sasquatch is a humanoid, because again, not to teach people to suck eggs, I know that not everybody knows that we weren't the first humanoids as Homo sapiens that walked this planet Earth. There were about, I think, 14 species before going to the first photograph, Evolution of Human, if you wouldn't mind, Monte.
Which one?
The picture, which is the Evolution of Human.
Right.
So basically, within the school of thought of humanoid is that before Homo sapiens, as we are now, there was lots of different species of humanoid. Some of the more common ones that people know are Neanderthal, but there was many types, and this is just a bit of a small picture of what's being picked up by archaeologists and scientists. And so it's believed that Bigfoot might be one of the species of human before Homo sapien that has basically not disappeared from this face of this planet as previously thought, and that there are small gatherings or tribes of them in certain locations of the world, and they've survived through history unknown and nomadic. So that's another school of thought around the humanoids, and you can sort of see where that sort of comes from, really. When you look at some of the earlier ones, like I can't quite see it, but some of the first Astropithecus, I think that's probably not the very best way of saying it, but you can see why there might be that connection. So that's just covering the humanoid school of thought. And then the next school of thought is that Bigfoot Sasquatch is some sort of undiscovered primate. So very similar to the sort of gorilla, ape, chimpanzee family. And just going nicely on to the next picture, which from BBC News, just to sort of back up some stuff around that, because again, we're coming at this from an angle as if people would go, well, how would that be at all possible? But this is just an article that I've picked out this week to share with. This was in 2004. A new giant ape was found in the Congo by scientists. So it just goes to show that there are species of chimpanzees, monkeys, gorillas being discovered still that were previously known as myths. There was certainly in Africa lots of myths of this giant chimpanzee, which they believe that this finally was that they found proven. But so yeah, that's pretty much the sort of primate school of thought, that Bigfoot is a kind of species of gorilla or ape that's not been quite identified just yet. And then the next school of thought is one that Ben's going to cover in a bit more detail this evening, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But the next school of thought is that Bigfoot is an alien or connected to aliens in some way, has some connection to, and I think that probably Ben will cover this, but one of the things that supports this school of thought is that a lot of the big Bigfoot sightings and areas where Bigfoot is known to kind of frequent a lot, like the state of Washington, are also UFO hotspots as well. So that's where there's kind of quite a strong connection. But as I said, Ben will go through that in a little bit more detail in a little while. And then the next sort of school of thought is that they're sort of interdimensional creatures, come from a different kind of plane of universe that they visit. That's why there's sightings of them, but then no kind of, everybody will say the normal thing, like, nobody's ever found a dead body of a Bigfoot, et cetera, no kind of physical evidence. And, the people that are assigned to that school of thought think, well, that's because they're interdimensional, that they only come and visit us through things like portals and stuff, and that's when the sightings take place. So just covering all the spectrum of school of thoughts around Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, just to sort of show you what a kind of diverse subject it is, and even within that subject, there's lots of people who differ and support particular schools of thought.
Oh, thank you, G. Ben, we lost you there for a bit. I explained to everyone that you've got some problems with your internet connection there. Are you actually there, Ben? Oh no, I think we are having some difficulties with Ben this evening. Oh, I hope he's going to be able to hang on for some discussion. That's interesting, G. I never really thought of that from the like their different flavor of aliens type point of view before. That's
Yeah, I mean, because even before people were making the connection, there was a lot of if you look up from from alien sightings, the different descriptions that people have given, like greys, etc. There are descriptions that people have given that are very similar to Bigfoot in terms of being very tall, hairy creatures, about 8 foot tall. And then, I think it's in the last few sort of decades or so that people have been making that sort of connection between the UFO. And again, it's very common that actually, in some cases, there's been some research done to show that they go hand in hand, that where they've had reports of UFO sightings, that there's also at the same time been reports of, Sasquatch or Bigfoot. So that's where a lot of people are making the connection as well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully we'll get Ben back on in a sec.
Yeah, Dan, just to let you know, Ben was probably not only going to be able to stay till about 9ish or so we were going to cover his section first.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine.
But as we seem to be having a bit of technical issues with Ben, it might be better if we improvise. And
KD Fitness reckons a Sasquatch took his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, probably. You mean Ben's Wi-Fi?
Yeah. So yes, maybe we swap things around and we'll get back to Ben. Hang on. Hang on a minute. Have we got the man of the day?
Hello.
There he is.
You're having a bit
Sorry,
of
guys, I heard,
Wi-Fi problems there.
I do have to apologise to everybody in the comment section and you guys as well that my internet where I live isn't great, so I do apologise for that. Seems to be working a little bit better now. And I heard pretty much everything he said, G-Star, up until literally after the recent news article he was showing there. That's where I saw up to. So I got most of it, I think.
Oh, yeah, I was just doing a generalised cover of all the different schools of thought around Bigfoot. And
the last one being them being possibly interdimensional aliens, and that accounting for the lack of evidence of them actually like living and that here. So that was the only I think the only point you missed off of that.
And then we were going to pass over to you. And
Awesome. So yeah, basically, I started off like everybody most likely does, believing that Bigfoot was some kind of undiscovered hominid. But then as I started to look at some of these cases that are coming forward from hunters, from people that have been abducted during the UFO phenomenon, I realised that there was a lot of similarities. So for example, there's a lot of people that have had experiences with Bigfoot who talk about mind speak. They say that somehow they received messages telepathically, or they were able to communicate with a Bigfoot through telekinesis, things like that. This is also something you hear with the UFO abduction phenomenon. A lot of people, Betty and Barney Hill, Travis Walton, all say that these extraterrestrial beings never really spoke physically by moving their mouth, but rather relaying messages through telepathy. Then there's also strange lights that keep occurring all the time. When people see a Bigfoot sighting, either shortly before or lights is very common in the UFO phenomenon. It could explain also as well why a Bigfoot is able to 1 minute be there and then the next minute disappear into thin air. If these are extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings, this would be a capability.
Ben, we've lost you. Yeah, I think we've lost Ben. It's interesting. I wonder with the mind speak thing, if that's a primary. Are you back, Ben?
Yeah, I'm back. I can hear.
Yeah, sorry, we lost you there at the end there. I don't know if maybe you can just stand with your hands in the air, or maybe, yeah, or possibly, and it's great to be able to see your face, but maybe disable your camera, because the camera data takes up a lot of broadband uploading, and if you disable your camera, you might have a more stable connection. We'll be able to hear you. Not that he got any of that. I think he's gone again. Anyway, I'll carry on what I was going to say about the mind speak thing, and this is probably one for Ben. I don't know if Daniel might be able to help, but do you know? I don't know if you know about that in detail, but I wonder when people say they report in all their encounters, that being the primary method of communication, whether they communicate with mind speak in that person's own language, or whether it's like they get a sense of intent or emotion, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think Ben might be better off answering that one because I haven't got a clue, quite frankly.
Right. Ben?
Sorry, if you just want to run that quickly past me.
Yeah, I just a thought, Ben. I know it's great to see your face on the stream, but if you're having problems with your upload link, it might be an idea to disable your camera. You might find you get a more stable connection if you're not uploading image data as well as sound data.
Yeah. So it seems like it's a bit better now, but if it does go off again, I will do that.
Yeah. I was just wondering, with the mind speak, with the people that report that being their primary method of communication, whether they talk to them through telepathy in their own language, or whether it's more a sense of emotion or intent, you know? Or
no, I think it is spoken word. I think
it is it?
I'm not sure how they would. Yeah, I'm not sure how they would do this, and even the people that have had these experiences don't know how these beings are able to do this. But it's spoken word, as if me and you are talking now, basically, and they're able to pass messages from one person to the next. For example, during the Betty and Barney Hill case, when Barney jumped out of the vehicle and ran into the field, grabbed his binoculars, and he was observing this craft, one of the beings that was stood in the window kept telling Barney, "Don't look away. Don't look away." And Barney felt like he was almost under some kind of hypnosis, and he was unable. It was very hard for him to turn away. And so I think that a lot of the control that these beings have over abduction victims is just that. It's some kind of a power that they hold over this person, like a hypnotic power. Barney was able to actually snap out of it and run back to the vehicle. It was further down the road that they were abducted and taken out of the vehicle. But again, it was just another example of where they've communicated from a long distance without physically moving their mouth.
Okay, cool.
Very strange.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So, what other evidence is there for the UFO or the alien connection, I should say?
Yeah. So another thing that I'd like to mention as well, or a point that I'd like to make, is that people have this stereotypical image of what an extraterrestrial looks like. And so when you start talking about extraterrestrials and Bigfoot, it's very hard for someone to think of an extraterrestrial being covered in hair and really, really tall, because that's not the stereotypical image that we have of a little grey alien or a little green alien. But when you look at cases like the Pascagoula case, or the what was the other one? What was the other case? The Flatwoods Monster. So the Pascagoula case and the Flatwoods Monster, these are extraterrestrial encounters that people have had, yet the extraterrestrials involved look nothing like your stereotypical alien. And I just think this is a great example for the likelihood that all extraterrestrials don't have to have these big black wraparound eyes, large heads, and little thimble bodies. They could come in all different variations, different sizes and shapes, and who knows, Bigfoot could be one of them.
Well, just to mention there, logically, if they've got the ability to mind control or speak to us through telepathy, and I think and again, this is just from my reading and research that I've done of alien abduction cases, but a lot of them sort of talk about being sort of frozen, can't move, etc. So there could be some sort of element of telekinesis and telepathy in there. And if a being had this ability, I'm sure it would probably or could have the ability to make us perceive it in whatever way it wants us to be perceived. And
absolutely.
Manipulate my manipulation, basically. So, and it could also explain why so many people have seen so many different types as well. If you kind of research all the different types of reported UFOs, there's like it's massive amounts of different pictures and drawings and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder whether there's more to that and that whole situation of just being able to control us completely.
And the more we learn as well about extraterrestrial and UFO abductions, the more these stories keep coming back to us now that the little grey aliens that we once thought were some highly intelligent beings, it's now coming to light that actually that might not be the case. These might be just little drones that are sent to Earth to do the dirty work for the higher echelon of extraterrestrials. Because a lot of the time when these grey aliens take people aboard the craft, they realise that these are just nothing more than drones, and the actual people in charge are people that look like humans almost. And so how do we know that a Bigfoot isn't just that? Isn't a drone sent to Earth? It's disposable. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, they are risking themselves. They're putting a drone there that's probably more advanced or equally as advanced as us, but they're sent to do the dirty work. A lot of these UFO sightings happen. I mean, you look at Travis Walton, you look at the Rendlesham Forest case, and all these different cases that happen around forested areas. A lot of the Bigfoot sightings happen in forested areas. I mean, some of them do happen out in the Boulder Plains, but a lot of them do happen in very big extraterrestrial UFO hotspots as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier that you to be honest, you got to say that like the Washington area and Lower Canada are probably the biggest hotspot for Sasquatch and Bigfoot sightings in the world, certainly documented and recorded. And that's also a really, really strong, UFO hotspot as well. That all the way down that side of the country and across the top. So yeah, there does seem a sort of element that there could be some sort of connection.
I also feel as well like some of the more stranger stories that we hear about Bigfoot. For example, we hear a lot of these footprint stories where people are following tracks, then all of a sudden the tracks just seemingly disappear into thin air. This would coincide with the extraterrestrial phenomenon. If they're able to just beam up into a craft, or if they're able just to slip into a different dimension, this would be the case. So all these stories that come forward of people following Bigfoot tracks that lead to a dead end, they don't go anywhere. Again, in my opinion, that strongly aims to this being some kind of an extraterrestrial connection.
And do you think they maybe have a perception filter for other environments? If you see them in the woods, they've got this kind of that sort of perception filter around them that makes us see that sort of thing. But if they're in a city environment, it'll just be a bloke carrying a ladder or something. Because
are we talking about the extraterrestrials
or interdimensional aliens or whatever the beings might be, whether it's it's like almost like chameleonic camouflage, you know? And they say,
I definitely believe that.
They say, you know, if you're a chap carrying a ladder down a street, nobody pays you any attention. Like, you could walk into a cinema, and if you're carrying a ladder, nobody's going to ask you for a ticket or anything, because they just assume you're like a part of the background. You know, you people almost turn off to them being there. It's like, that's not my problem. You know, whatever that is.
Yeah, no. I believe that 100%. I believe that extraterrestrials have been here for a very long time, and there's a case called the Lacerta files where they talk about that in them files. A guy met a woman in the woods, a remote part of Sweden or somewhere like that, and it was months after him talking back and forth with this woman that she actually revealed herself, or her true self, to him, and she was like, she looked like a reptilian. So I believe there is cases out there is stories that are wacky, but have some truth to them.
I mean, I said earlier mind control, but you know, mind control, that's not just, you know, for anybody watching. I'm not just thinking, oh, you know, rays coming out of your head type mind control. There's all forms of mind control. What you were just talking about, Monte, is a form of mind control. It's manipulating people's thought perception. And so it could be, you know, as simple as that sort of elements of mind control that they use, that they camouflage themselves into environments and backgrounds that we would naturally associate them with being there. Do you know what I mean? It's really interesting because I've not, within my kind of field of looking into Bigfoot, I've not explored very much the alien connection, Ben. But listening to what you're saying, like most people, I started off my journey of like looking into Bigfoot from a cryptozoology point of view.
I was the same.
That's what most people would know it as, and that's the common kind of thing. But one of the things that always bothered me about that is this whole fact that why does it seem to be in so many different locations around the world, like the Yeti, like in Japan and China, there's been sightings of like ape-like creatures in China. But again, the alien connection would answer that actually they're not specific to that place. They just move around, you know, and
exactly.
That's why they're seen everywhere.
Yeah. And strange smells. I talked about the lights, I talked about the mind speak, I talked about their ability to be able to disappear and reappear, but also smells. Weird smells are reported time again in abduction cases. Just before being abducted, people report smelling this foul odour and then passing out. And again, this is very strong in the Bigfoot phenomena. People smell of this really dirty odour. And again, just connection after connection. And I just want to make it very clear that I'm not saying that Bigfoot is an extraterrestrial, but for me right now, this is the route I'm taking, and it seems the more plausible. When I think about an undiscovered hominid running wild in the Pacific Northwest, to me that seems more unbelievable than suggesting that this thing could be somehow related to extraterrestrials, some intelligent beings just visiting Earth. So, I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah,
Cool.
Mickey's made some good points in chat. If they're so advanced that they've like broken the faster than light travel, or they can travel between worlds, then their brain function is going to be a lot more advanced, and that would lead to that sort of mind communication and control sort of thing. He said like it would be right that they could be hiding in plain sight, and he thinks his dog's looking at him a bit strangely.
He's made another really good point there, and that's if humans can hypnotize each other, why would it not be possible for other creatures from other planets to be able to hypnotize us?
Yeah, and extraterrestrials, I've never known one that's got a fully functional human-looking mouth. They're always described as very small slits, and we know ourselves as humans, as we evolve, if there's a certain part of our body that we don't use, it starts to get pushed out of that DNA chain, and eventually people will be born without like a little toe, and eventually that gene will be the strong gene that will carry on, and eventually people in the future won't have it. Do you know what I'm saying? So if there's extraterrestrials that aren't using their mouth to speak, it would explain why they just have a slit now and not a fully functioning human mouth, because they don't need it. Just another thought. Just another wild thought.
Yeah, I do feel I know for you, Dan, we have gone probably into this a little bit backwards than we would have started off at the more traditional approach and ended up with their interdimensional aliens.
Straight down the rabbit hole, didn't we?
We've just gone straight down to the core of the rabbit hole, and now we're going to start making our way back out of it, I think. Yeah, that's very cool. Very, very cool. Where are we going next, G?
We can go. I would have liked to have started at the beginning, and that was with the Patterson film.
Should we do that?
And talking a little bit about that.
Let's do that.
Because just talking a little bit about how my journey started, because it was about 3 years ago, and as you know, I'm always looking into things about UFOs and aliens, etc. So, you know, when you're online and you're doing these kind of searches, other things pop up, and you know, the whole Bigfoot mythology hadn't been something that I had previously been very interested in. But then starting, you know, I had this memory of, and probably everybody will have this sort of memory in the back of their head that they've seen the Patterson Gimlin footage. It's so embedded into modern pop culture. And for me, when I first started looking into the whole Bigfoot thing, I thought, oh, well, yeah, there's that footage that is a bit ridiculous and it's a man in a suit, etc. And I even had convinced myself that at some point it had been debunked or proven to be a hoax. And so that's where I started, was with the Patterson Gremlin footage. And what I found out is, so rewinding a little bit, the footage that I'm talking about was actually filmed in 1967 by a gentleman called Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin. Patterson, he died in 1972, so he died 5 years after this footage was taken. But I believe Bob Gimlin is still alive. He was on Finding Bigfoot recently, the TV series. But anyway, so you know, it's embedded. It was one of the first pieces of evidence or footage for Bigfoot that to this day has not been officially debunked. There was a case or a situation in 2016 where there was a radio broadcast where a bunch of people sort of claimed that they could prove that the Patterson footage was a hoax, but that in itself turned out to be a hoax. But actually, and the thing that's really interesting about the Patterson footage, and probably why I felt that it was so fake, was because it was taken in 1967, and as time has gone on, photography and video footage and analysis has sort of like got better and better, and the way in which people will analyze something to try and debunk it or to prove it has become much more advanced. And as that's become much more advanced, it's actually lent itself well to the Patterson footage. So yeah, going back to 1967, you know, and dealing with the elephant in the room, it's a man in a suit. Well, we'll come to that. Let's watch the footage first. Now, this is, hopefully, if the right one's lined up, this is the very original footage. So kind of wanted everybody to see it in the sort of shaky cam nature of what it was originally looked like.
There's no sound, I don't believe.
That's fine. You don't need sound. And we all know how we all kind of hate the whole shaky cam footages, you know, especially a lot of people still do it now with a lot of Bigfoot footage that you see on like YouTube. There's a lot of shaky cam stuff going on. And, you know, a lot of people will say that supports like hoaxing. They're trying to kind of get away from the detail. But I just wanted everybody to see what the footage looked like in its original kind of format and how people would have seen it when it was first. I don't think it was released in 1967. I think it was shot in 1967, but it came out a little bit after that. But that's how people would have kind of seen it. But as photography and videography is caught up and become more advanced, what people have been able to do is they've been able to actually stabilize the footage, so you can actually see what it would have been look like walking in, you know, the best sort of camera footage that you could take, and that in itself allowed people, scientists, etc., to do a little bit more better analysis. That's the sort of stabilized version of it, and you know, things like zooming in, etc., etc. So there's quite a few things that I wouldn't mind going through, just to kind of give some of the main pointers as to what really goes, what's kind of been pointed out that goes to prove that this isn't a fake and that it's totally genuine.
That's really cool,
so,
the way they did that.
Yeah,
it does look really cool.
It's some of the best that I've seen, because I've seen full stabilized versions of it, but the way they've put it on that picture background, I just think it looks kind of
very cool.
Good. So yeah, just giving a little bit more background then to Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. They were rodeo cowboys, sort of a bit down and out, really. They had been trying to kind of research and publish stuff around the whole Bigfoot hunting thing. So it wasn't like they were someone, you know, they weren't two guys who just went out in the woods and just happened to film Bigfoot. These were guys that in the years approaching this footage had been on the search for Bigfoot. However, that had gone on for some years, and something that lends well to their credibility is they'd never really said that they had seen anything. So I think it was Roger Patterson was the primary one on this, that he had said that he'd been looking for Bigfoot for years and he hadn't even had so much as a sighting. He had heard other people's stories. He had seen some physical evidence from their sort of sightings, but he had never seen it himself. But ultimately, they were quite poor. So if this is a man in a suit, bearing in mind this is 1967, the suit would have to be pretty like top quality. It would be like somebody today trying to wear an Iron Man suit and fly around and be filmed and be like the true Iron Man, because the costume in itself would have cost, you know, tens of thousands of pounds, because even in movies at the time, they didn't have what people have analyzed is as good a costume as what you would see. So in terms of the man in the suit, a couple of other things that sort of go to point towards its genuineness is some of the analysis that's been done of the legs and how it walks. If you can just pause it, can you pause it around just about there when he just before his legs?
I don't think I can. It just allows me to zoom in and out. That's why it was playing when we went into it. I don't think I can do anything about that.
So a lot of studies.
If you want, Jay, use the picture I sent.
Oh yeah,
with the two apes on either side.
Cool. Let Monte line that up. As he's lining that up, I'll just talk about what I'm trying to say is that they've looked at the creature or the man in the suit, whatever you want to call it, and looked at the way it walks and the way that its legs move. Its shins go up to a 73-degree angle. Now, any human, female or male, when they walk, they only go up to a maximum of 53 degrees angle. There's a lot of people that have taken footage of people walking, and it's very difficult for a person, especially a person in a suit, to walk with their shin going at a 73-degree angle and their foot remaining straight with no element of heel in it. So do you want to just comment on what this picture, Dan?
Yeah, so this is a picture I found. I think Andy McGrath from Beasts of Britain shared it onto his Facebook page. And it's basically showing the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot in the middle, and then the similarities of between a gorilla and an orangutan. But I thought it shows the legs a bit better for your point, I was thinking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's not just the legs as well. As I said, the whole thing is, as you see the creature or the man in the suit in motion, there's 73-degree angle with the shin. But also, if you notice, and thanks for sharing this picture, Dan, if you notice the arms and where the distance of the arm ends from where the elbow bends, again, it would have to be the man in a suit would have to be holding something in his hand, because the arm is about 12 inches longer than what a human's arm would be in a suit. So he would have to be holding something in his hand to extend that arm, because as you can see just in that picture there, the middle one we're looking at, his arm goes down, if it was laid on his leg, like way past the sort of middle of his thigh. And it's also about the way in which his arm moves, and it stays straight as it's walking. And I'm saying he, but actually, again, this picture is really good, because the other interesting point about the picture that was later picked up, not at the first, once it was stabilized and they could zoom in, is that the creature in the footage has got breasts. So I don't know if you can see that in the picture.
Yeah.
So again, if you were going to hoax it, put a man in an ape suit, why would you put breasts on it? Up until now, the myth had been that it was a solo creature and probably from a male background, not a female background. But this creature's clearly got breasts, and breasts that look very similar, again, to something from the ape or gorilla species. So that's another thing. So there's a lot of stuff around the whole way in which the creature moves. The other thing, going back to the whole suit and why it's felt that it would have to be such a complex suit, is just that you can even see in elements where they've zoomed in the strong muscle contour, both in the buttocks, the back, very much similar to what you would see on a gorilla, like the one that's on the very left picture. And also just the context of the hair, different color patches of the hair with the way that it catches the light. Again, it would have to be a really, top 1967, it would have to have been top of its line kind of costume. There's people that try to replicate this even today and can't get it right. That's how kind of great this suit would have to be. One last thing that I've probably got to mention on this one, I'll let some of the other guys chip in on their thoughts or if they've got anything to add, and that's that again, the footage was taken in a place called Bluff Creek in North California, and a few years after this footage was taken, there was a big flood, and the area where the photography video footage was taken was flooded out. But then several years later, when all the water dissipated, they were able to get in there again, and they've done analysis where they've taken pictures of the location where it was shot, so they've been able to measure things and get a sense of just being able to work out how big this thing is that's in the suit. And just to give you a perspective, the height of the creature in the video footage would have to be 5 inches taller than the guy who plays Chewbacca in Star Wars. So again, if it's a man in a suit, it's got to be in a really complex suit, a guy that's really, really extremely tall, because it works out to be something like 8 or 9 foot high. So again, there's a lot of things that have been able to be picked up from the footage throughout the last few decades as there's been advancements that have really gone to lend credibility. The other last thing to say is that Roger Patterson, who died in 1972 of cancer, he went to his deathbed claiming that this was genuine and that it wasn't a hoax. Bob Gimlin, the other guy that was with him when this was filmed, he didn't really start talking about it very much until about 2005. In his time, he's only done about 3 TV interviews for it. So again, it's not something that they've done for massive fame or notoriety or money. But again, he's still alive and he still claims that this is genuine and it's not a hoax. So that's this. I just wanted to share this because this is how my journey of Bigfoot research started, and it's more interesting than what you would think when you think of that footage and you think, oh, it's just a man in a suit.
Yeah, Roger Hargreave pointed out that Hollywood costume designers have said that at the time creating this suit and its gait would have more likely been impossible at the time with the technology that they had. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Planet of the Apes, the original movie, was brought out around this time. And I think they had a budget which was something like $1 million or something, maybe a bit more. But the whole emphasis of that movie, Planet of the Apes, was the believability of the costumes. And yet, we look at the Planet of the Apes costumes, it has nothing on this. I mean, look at the detail in the face. If this was a costume, they've gone as far as adding breasts, facial expression. I mean, we just said there that if this was a guy in a suit, how tall did you say we'd have to be, G-Star? 8 foot something?
Yeah, it's just under 9 foot, I think. Basically, they've the guy that played Chewbacca, and this is when he's in the costume of Chewbacca. The thing on the footage is 5 inches taller than that, and 5 inches.
Okay, so an estimate. What we're saying, 12 foot, something like 11 foot.
About 8.5 foot.
8.5 foot, and as we watch that video footage play through, he's got a constant bend in the knee. So if he was stood up straight, I mean, at no point does that leg ever straighten in the whole footage. So we can say one or two things: either this is a really large animal, or this is a guy in a costume, preferably on stilts. Now, if he's on stilts, walking through this creek, you can see the amount of debris that's everywhere. There's trees lying around the place. There's rocks and boulders. It's just not a stable walking platform. And yet we can see in the footage that he turns around for at least 4 steps and never takes a step out of place.
You can always tell. You can always tell when people are wearing stilts, though. You can just see it in the gait and the way they walk. It's just it's always obvious. And this thing almost like looks back over its shoulder, so it's got great movement in itself. It's not fake at the top. It must be real because it wouldn't have that sort of range of motion.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to go through every single thing, but again, another thing that's been picked up is the actual stride of the creature on the footage. Again, when they went back onto location and could work out what distance it's covering in what time frame, it's working out that its stride is like, very, very long. Again, it would have to be a really, really tall human with really long legs, in the picture, so or in the video footage.
Yeah.
And this animal just looks totally confident in that environment, like we just spoke about there. When it turns around for at least 4 steps, it's not even looking in the direction it's walking, and yet it never ever takes a step out of place, never falls, trips, stumbles. Now, if this is a guy in a costume with very limited visibility, that would be impossible to do. You'd be feeling around for the floor in front of you, you'd probably slip, stumble, or something like that. And I think, I might be wrong in saying this, but I think the gait of this animal as well has been, people have tried to recreate this gait, the way it walks, and I don't think to this day anybody's been able to match it. No. It just walks like what we see here, the gorilla and the chimpanzee.
Because again, I was talking about the angle of where the shin goes to, but the other part of it, if you can go back to that footage, Mark, if that's easy enough to do, the one where it's stabilized, it keeps its, so say if this is its leg, it keeps its foot completely straight, like that, and we have a natural arch in our foot, whereas a lot of gorillas, a lot of ape-like species like that don't. And it basically its foot stays completely straight, doesn't bend like a human would be, and also a person in a suit. But yeah, so I just wanted to share it because after I really delved into this, Monty, I have to say that regarding the rest of like the Bigfoot mythology and any other video footage side, I would say that this one, for me, there's been so much analysis done on this now, and they've not been able to officially debunk it. I think that this is totally genuine in whatever form that genuine is. But yeah, I'm convinced that this is genuine. And that's what's so really exciting and interesting about it, is because when I first then revisited it, as I say, about 3 years ago, I just thought it was a bunch of rubbish. And I don't know why in the back of my head, I thought it had already been debunked. And you know, when a lot of people do see this, they instantly go to that thing in their head where they say, oh, it's just a man in a suit. And it so isn't. It so isn't.
No, this is the holy grail, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the very reason that Roger and Patterson Gimlin were even there, it wasn't a chance encounter. I mean, it was a chance encounter, but there was purpose for why they were at Bluff Creek. Many people had reported seeing these things for months, if not years, and that's literally why they chose this area to go explore. So it wasn't like they just, you know, randomly picked this Bluff Creek. A lot of other people had sighted and reported things there.
And the other thing as well is, after they had filmed this footage, they then went and backtracked where they had seen the creature, and they did find footprints which they took moldings of as well, to support, to support the footage as well. But there's just so much credibility around this for me, in my terms, and especially the way they, you know, considering how amazing it is and what photography's now being able to show us about it. They didn't really scream and shout about it and make lots of money like you would have expected they could have done if they wanted to.
Yeah, and another thing I've been thinking about watching this through again is that these guys, I think, were shooting like on a 30mm camera or 30mm lens, and they're shooting off at some distance here. So detail in the suit wouldn't be a priority, because with such a basic lens, if you're aiming to hook something at this distance, you could get away without adding the pads on the hands or the expression on the face, because or the boobs, it wouldn't really matter. But yet when we zoom in, we can see that this thing has clearly got pads on its hands, it's clearly got pads on the soles of its feet, facial expression, boobs, everything about this, just to me, screams real. I don't see this being a hoax.
I mean, the only one thing, just to offer the other two sides of the argument, the only thing that some scientists, if you go on to Wiki about this footage, the one thing that scientists do sort of have in their arsenal to sort of say to debunk it is just because there's hair on the breasts, and basically not in any other mammal species or gorilla species do they have breasts where they have hair on the breast. But then, you know, if you're saying that this isn't a being that spends all its time here and maybe is something alien, then why would that be an issue? But I certainly don't think it's a strong enough argument to really push it out. I think there's more these days that goes for it, and actually that whole footage then propelled my aggressive interest in Bigfoot. And as I said, over the last 3 years, I've just been trying to absorb as much as I can about the whole mythology around Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Wildman. So what's your thoughts, Dan, on that footage?
Well, it's the real deal, isn't it? I mean, you've covered everything. I think you've covered absolutely everything. There's nothing I can add. It's the real deal. It's a Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
You said.
And I just want to.
Sorry, go on, Dan.
Well, can you put the video up that I sent to you? Because I believe
which
this
one?
was the Sierra Sounds is called.
It'd be the YouTube one. Is it YouTube one?
Sierra
It's YouTube one, yeah. And it's, again, I believe that's Northern California as well. So it's the same area as this.
If you haven't done so already, guys, put
Missing
your thoughts
411. The Hunted Strange Sounds?
Yeah, that's right.
That's that one?
Yeah, if you can have the sound, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll do.
This is audio.
Quick question from Mickey. We said that Patterson went there specifically to hunt those out because they'd been seen quite a lot there. Where in the world are Bigfoots and Sasquatches mainly spotted?
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Canada, out places like that. They're the hot spots.
In fact, I think there is a Google map of Bigfoot sightings where you can see where they plotted them all out. I'll bring that up
to an email later. To you, Mark, after the last live stream.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done so already, let us know in chat, guys, whether you think the Patterson footage is genuine or hoax.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Your thoughts. Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's mostly Washington. The state of Washington's a really huge, big hotspot. I mean, that's where the big documentaries of the last few years primarily been filmed, like the Finding Bigfoot. Although that's a TV series. What's the other one? The one with is his name Sterling? The guy who tried to take the Canadian court, Canadian wildlife people to court because they're not taking it serious enough, and he thinks it's I can't remember his name, Tony Sterling or something. He's in all the films. But there's Finding Bigfoot, which is a TV series which goes all over America. But yeah, Ben's right. It's mostly the Pacific Northwest.
Do I just play this from the beginning, Dan?
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
Heard anything. It was later in 71. I came back up with the guys and we was here by the stove. There was a stove here then. And as soon as it starts getting dark, we'd go in. Sometimes you might hear a grunt or a whoop or a big blowing sound, something like that, and that's when you know you want to get inside the shelter because you still don't know what you're dealing with. Whatever it is big, very, very big. We all go inside, close the shelter door, and that's a log that we put between these trees, and then we'd strap it inside a cable, and then they would start making their sounds. And that was in 71 when I first started hearing them, and we started recording them. Across the creek at the big rocks.
You can stop it at any time now, Mark. I just wanted...
I'd be absolutely
everyone to read
terrified
that
if I
as
was
well.
those people. I'd be absolutely pooing myself. Yeah.
But did everyone catch what I said at the end?
I didn't
Yeah.
quite catch. What did it say?
They said that they'd sent it off to be
yes.
analysed by a professor of electrical sound. It's got to be from a creature measured between 7'3" and 8 foot, which brings us back to it's a similar size to a Bigfoot.
Yeah, it really ties into the evidence they got from the video, from the from the
And this
recording.
was Northern California as well, I believe. I believe the Sierra Mountains are Northern California.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the beginning of that video, was that they were in what they thought was a shelter built by one? Is
So
that
the
what they were saying?
background is they're hunters and they go out hunting, and where they are is like an 8-mile trek. So they are way out in the sticks, and that's where their base camp is, and they built their shelter because they started hearing these sounds and they wanted some safety from whatever it was. So that
Right.
shelter's just like a barrier between them and whatever these creatures are, basically.
Because do you guys know about like around a lot of the places, especially in forests, where they say that they see Bigfoot Sasquatch? There's always a common thing where there's a lot of sticks or tree trunks put together. Have you heard the latest theory on what that is?
I've heard ones with it being to do with navigation, navigational purposes, and maybe territorial purposes as well, things like that.
Yeah, because there's actually Aboriginal tribesmen who use that sort of system to communicate with each other and say where they're going, etc. And they think that Bigfoot, you know, if we're assuming that it's a tribe of some sort and there's more than one, that they're communicating, they're using it to communicate with each other.
Yeah. The problem I have with that is that there's far too many people now going out there building bushcraft shelters, building off the beaten track camps, and it might be the case that they are using these stick formations or these tree structures as a way of navigating, but it's really hard when you've got so many people out there now taking to Wildman, taking to bushcraft, building all these different types of shelters, because what I find a lot in these Bigfoot groups is that people are just snapping pictures of what is clearly a lean-to shelter or some kind of debris shelter built by someone practicing bushcraft, and they're like, oh, this was a wild man or this was a Bigfoot, and it just gets distorted and it muddies the waters a little bit.
I mean, it's good that Dan sort of brought attention to that bit at the end of the video where it was saying about the analysis that's been done on it, because the same could be said for footage where you hear that sounds or screams, etc. Because my thinking is, especially in places like Washington, they have lots of different tourist things where they take people out, supposedly on a hunt for Bigfoot, and they do overnight camps and stuff. And there's so many people probably around in different areas of Washington now giving out calls, because one of the things that they do when they take people out is they start doing calls in the hope that they will attract some calls back. So I'm thinking, well, if somebody's 1 mile down doing their own little, on location.
But how would they get hold of the audio of an animal that isn't human?
Well, yeah.
Because at the end of that video, it said that it wasn't human.
But that's why I think it's
generated.
good that it said that at the end. I think that's really good that it shows that it's been analysed. Yeah, because there's so many that you see online that you're like, well, that could be. So it's good that when you see the analysis has been done.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
I think I'm in a similar position. I kind of dismissed this for years because I just assumed, wrongly so, that we've explored pretty much everywhere and everybody carries cameras around with them now, and literally thousands of people go out into the forests looking, and if you had a creature as large as that, 8 foot tall, and there was enough of them to keep a genetic gene pool going, so they must have had some sort of, base numbers to genetically keep the species alive, then we would have found it by now.
My counter thing to that would be, recently, only maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, we discovered in Indian waters there was a fish. I can't remember the exact name of that, but if you type in Indian waters discovery of fish or something like that, we believe that this fish had died out during the dinosaur era, and yet a fishing boat found one alive and well.
Yeah.
It had been around this whole time. So these things do slip through the net, and there is things still out there yet to be discovered.
Yeah, this week I saw there was a new type of fox that was discovered that they'd never seen before.
Wow, that's crazy.
And yeah, these things happen, you know.
Yeah.
It does from a zoological point of view. Even into Dan M, who's joined us, he said, according to Google Map, created for the subject, there's been sightings in at least 14 different US states.
Yeah. I wonder if I could just find that.
I'm really strange for this, and I've got to put this point across as well, is that I'm really weird, and sometimes I do contradict myself a lot, which I think is healthy. I don't think we should ever say this is exactly what it is.
That's being open-minded.
Exactly. My opinions, and I tell all my audience this on my channel, is that my opinion will always change, and everybody's more than welcome to hold me to what I say, but just bear in mind, it will change, because I'm not claiming to know anything. And the reason I'm making this point is because when I look at the Patterson Gimlin footage, as we just did, I don't see an extraterrestrial. I see an undiscovered hominid. But like I've just told you at the start, the route this has taken me, this journey, is that it's more extraterrestrial in nature. So I'm in a conflict now because I don't actually know what's going on, and I think that is very healthy to be like that. At no point should we ever say it is extraterrestrial or it is Bigfoot. We should always say, look,
yeah,
in this instance, sorry, Gonji.
I think we'd have to be more worried if you were like, it's an alien and nobody's going to sway me, because that doesn't show a really good investigative mind. You have to be open-minded. You have to want your base of knowledge to be changed, and that's what I know you're all about on your channel, thought-provoking material.
Exactly,
and that's exactly what we're doing here. We do it on all sorts, on Atlantis, on the pyramids, but yeah, it's all good. It's all good to really have a open-minded approach and not just naturally do that whole assuming it's a man in a suit or assuming it's nonsense and it's silly, because usually when you've got some sort of myth or some sort of there's something behind things usually that gets things started. Whether that can be explained some way down the line is another question, but you know.
Yeah, and science works in the same way. Science will speculate first. I think this happens because of X, Y, Z. And then what they do is they set up a scientific study to try and disprove that. And it's when they can no longer disprove it that they then say, well, that's scientific fact now. But scientific fact can always change unless if somebody, I mean, Einstein's theories now are being ruled out because somebody in today's world has proven that it's not exactly 100% accurate. And that's how scientific studies work. They speculate first, they set up the exam, and then they go. That's kind of what I like to do.
I came into this evening's show, you know, more on the humanoid, a previous species of human or primate that's not that we felt was extinct or has so far not been discovered. That's the angle I came in with. And then as you were talking about the alien connection, which is admittedly I've not probed into that too much. Sorry for the pun, probe. But you've presented something there that's made me go, oh, well, maybe that could explain why they're seen in so many different places around the world, and even here in the UK, which nicely passes us over to Dan. And
I was just going to say, I brought up the Google map of the Bigfoot and UFO sightings. Mazin McBob asks, how comes there's no sightings in Canada? I will say that this data is just taken from the USA and Great Britain. It doesn't include data from Canada. So that's why it's a bit like how they didn't drop any bombs on the dockyard in Plymouth during World War II. There's just no data from that map.
There are a lot of sightings,
but there are lots of sightings. It's just not in this data set.
Can I just ask, Mark, what map is this?
This is Google Maps.
There's a better map for Bigfoot sightings. It's the map that Debbie Hatswell done.
Oh, right, okay. Well, this is just the one that I saw today. It's just on Google Maps. I'm surprised how many are on this map that are in the east. Arranged in the east.
That could be a lot to do with the skunk ape.
Yeah, possibly. I say that, I don't know what that is, but...
Well, skunk ape's primarily around Florida, and but it actually doesn't seem to be a lot of green dots down in Florida. If I'm looking at the right place.
Yeah,
But yeah.
there's one
Yeah.
there, and that was in
It is interesting looking at the connection between where the red sightings are being, I presume, UFOs,
Yeah.
and then where the sightings of Bigfoot are. So that really lends well to what you've been saying, Ben.
Yeah.
What's the blue ones?
Looks like Mothman or something like that.
Thunderbird sightings.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that is. Is that
What's
something
that?
historic?
It's some sort of giant bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Must be another American thing. A Monte's own episode in the future, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go.
There is one up in Canada.
Oh yeah, there is.
That's Alaska.
No, that's Alaska.
Alaska's a bit further
there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I thought it was on the Gulf
How
of
comes
Alaska.
isn't he? I don't know. It's not a comprehensive thing.
Well,
it's just
yeah, because I know
Google
that
data.
British Columbia is huge.
Yeah.
For Bigfoot sightings. Yeah.
Yeah, Bigfoot sightings,
Yeah.
huge. Probably the biggest hotspot, actually.
And the Nordic area where Justin from Mount Beast Mysteries goes is rife with Bigfoot sightings that way as well. That's in Canada.
Yeah. Right. So there you go.
So shall we talk a little bit more about sightings in the UK now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, before I get into the UK sightings, I just want to come back to something Mark said about exploring everywhere and everyone's got cameras. I just want to put something into perspective.
Yeah.
So the USA as a whole is 9.834 million square kilometers. Of that, 776,996 square kilometers is forested. So now if we go up to Washington State, where most of these Bigfoot sightings are, it's 186,000 square kilometers. Over half of the state is forested. So we can easily say about 93,000 square kilometers. That is 4.5 Wales. That's the size of 4.5 Wales is. So to say we've been everywhere and explored everywhere, that's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And then we go down to Oregon.
I've been told.
Again, Pacific Northwest, a lot of Bigfoot sightings. That's 245,000 square kilometers. And again, half of the state is forested, which is about 122.5 thousand square kilometers. That's 6 times bigger than Wales. So there's space out there, and I can guarantee you there's places there that have not been explored. I wouldn't say ever, but they've not been explored for many a year.
It's
To
more.
say
It's
there's no room, I think it's nonsense.
It's not that there's no room. It's just that for a species that large to maintain genetic diversity, to allow the species to keep on continuing to exist, requires a certain number of individuals over a certain breadth. Else they have genetic deformities, and they'd end up becoming extinct, like the Neanderthals type thing. And I just think, I know that it's a massive place out there, and there's lots of space, but just us not being able to find that just seems to me just. But
one example.
Yeah, then Ben comes in today with the whole aliens or the idea that they could be like trans-dimensional beings. Then it's suddenly like, even though that seems crazier on the face of it, I feel that makes more sense.
Yeah, one example I like to give in respect with what we're talking about here now, how they are able to go undiscovered, is that pandas, I always resort back to this one, is that pandas are relatively a new species, only like maybe 200 if that years. And if you think about it, a panda is black and white. It lives in a green environment and it eats bamboo. It rolls around like a stupid teddy bear on the hills of wherever it lives. It's not trying to hide. But the reason it stayed hidden for so long is of where it lives. You've got to literally hack your way through to its environment on steep torrential terrain for miles and miles just to even come across the habitat in where the pandas live. And when people were coming back to these local towns and villages saying that they'd seen a bear that was black and white, it was a vegetarian, and it ate bamboo, lived in a green environment, people laughed. People didn't believe that. A lot like they don't believe the Bigfoot phenomenon. And then lo and behold, years later, we ventured off and we found that these things do exist called pandas. So, yeah, it's strange.
Another interesting point to that argument is that like a pack of wild wolves with 12 wolves in it can survive and flourish continuously in the wild, and when you think about the size of gorilla packs as well, because it's an interesting point that you raise, Monte, because most of the pure research of Bigfoot in the last sort of couple of decades especially has heavily lent to the fact that most incidents involve more than one, and it's believed that it's groups. There's certain incidents where people have felt that they've been surrounded by them. But also, most of sightings, most of incidents where people feel that they've actually encountered are more that they're non-violent. They will throw rocks and sticks and stuff, but they're not. They're not going to attack humans and eat a human and stuff like that. Not that we know, anyway. But yeah, just thought I'd drop that in.
Yeah.
So Dan, carry on. You were talking
UK
us through.
sightings, yes. So it wasn't. I mean, Bigfoot is relatively new to me. Obviously, I knew of Bigfoot. I knew some of the famous cases. Obviously, Patterson, Gimlin, the Paul Freeman footage. But it's quite recently that I really took an interest in this because I found Ben's channel, and my interest is more the British sightings. Because I didn't realize I think there's about 500 recorded British sightings of Bigfoot.
500?
Which is insane.
Wow.
500, yeah. Which is insane. To think that this small island, 500 sightings. I'm not sure when the first recorded sighting was. I know there's been sightings going back to the 60s, looking at Debbie Hartwell's map. But yeah, that's what interests me, is the British Bigfoot. So I got two cases tonight. The first case, there's no evidence. It's just the story. And this is down by you, Mark, and UG. It's from Dartmoor.
Right.
So I'll just get it up and I'll read it. So in 2016, this is coming from Debbie Hartwell. So Debbie Hartwell's written this report, and I'm just going to relay her words just so people know.
Just to interrupt you, who is Debbie Hartwell?
Debbie Hartwell is a British researcher of Bigfoot, and she's created this map with all the sightings on, and I think has she done worldwide, Ben?
I think she might have done. I know Debbie from her work on the UK map here, but I do have a hunch that she might have done worldwide as well, yeah.
But the map is phenomenal. When you get it up, Britain is just covered in sightings. Not just Bigfoot, she's done big cats, which I don't believe are in Britain, but that's another story. She's done other cryptids, like werewolves and stuff. But yeah, so this is coming directly from Debbie. Debbie's written this. In 2016, I received an email from a gentleman whose brother was in prison. He was housed in Dartmoor jail. I think that's HMP Dartmoor. There's only one jail on Dartmoor, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
That's
yeah,
correct,
at
yeah.
Bridgestone.
And his cell looked out onto the B3357 road that was close to the prison itself and has a small wooded area adjacent to it.
Yeah. No.
Dartmoor still has a misplaced reputation for being a high security prison that is escape proof. Now it is merely a Cat C prison. Dartmoor houses mainly non-violent offenders and white-collar criminals. The gent that contacted me went on to explain that his brother was in prison and was almost finished with his sentence. He had received a number of home leaves, and on this one previous weekend, January 2016, had seemed even more reluctant to return than he had on other day releases. As you can imagine, this poor man's mind filled with horrors being in prison can bring, and he gently coaxed his brother into revealing what the problem was. Expecting to hear about a violent attack or bullying by other prisoners, he couldn't quite believe what his brother told him. His brother went on to explain that from his cell, you can see two small wooded areas out over the moors, which in a sense had enabled him to really appreciate the beauty out there, and he would watch the woods constantly for something to do at first. But then he learned the habits of the birds and the woodland animals. He would eventually come to revel in watching the wildlife. Even in the autumn and winter, there had been lots going on out there to keep him occupied. On the previous Saturday night, excuse me. Where was I? On the previous Saturday night, before the gent's home leave the following Friday, he was watching the woods after lights out, waiting for the bats and owls to start their day. He suddenly noticed a dark figure hugging the tree line. He thought at first it was another prisoner who had struck lucky and managed a few hours of escapism out there, or was setting out to receive a parcel left by somebody to be smuggled in at the most opportune time. Let's get to the next one. Thinking that the time had come, he watched with a smile, wondering how the inmate was going to get back in. Being caught breaking into the prison would make for a funny write-up when they took him before the governor. As he watched this dark human-shaped figure move up and down through the wood, he realised the person was looking up into the tree branches and not down at the floor as you would expect. As the cloud shifted, the figure was suddenly illuminated by the moon, and the prisoner looking for contraband looked like a wild, hairy man who was really thick and muscle-bound. As you watched the figure pick up a stick from the ground beside him, he hurled it into the tree. The man watched as a small animal or bird fell down from above and was quickly pushed into the mouth of the naked, hairy prisoner. As you can imagine, the gent was horrified at this scene and blinked and adjusted his eyes as quickly as possible, but the figure was gone. You watched those woods all night in case the figure returned, and did so every day until he got a slight reprieve when he came home to us this Friday. Taking him back was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. Thankfully, he only has 3 weeks left, but I bet you will watch that wood every night until then. So, listening to that doesn't actually sound like your typical Bigfoot. It just sounds like could be a Wildman, which is essentially was reported in Britain.
Well, first and foremost, I can tell you that that's not very far from where we are at all. So we're going there, Monty. We're going to that very dot to see if we can find that black figure. But no, it's interesting, Dan. You know, where in that in the sort of story or the email, it makes the correlation between it could be somebody dropping off a package. You know, of drugs or whatever, because that's very much sort of, you know, a very common thing that happens in and around prisons. And but then when it gets onto the bit where like he puts a bird straight in his mouth, that's you know, that goes a bit of a different direction.
Can you imagine seeing that?
Bit gross, bit freaky.
Yeah. So I see you have the map up, Mark.
Yeah, so
It's got the story.
That's the site. That's the story that Dan was just telling us. This is Dartmoor Prison at Princetown. You can see they don't really need massive security around this prison because it is in the middle of nowhere. You got to walk some time through Dartmoor to actually get anywhere. But by the time someone notices you're missing, they put up a helicopter with night vision on it, and they have you back. But yeah, there's been several spottings I see through Dartmoor. There's a number of them around the centre of Dartmoor.
They're
area.
all from the 60s and 70s, I believe.
Yeah. And the other thing that I can say is right near that area where some of the other symbols are, there is some really... So Princetown, where the Dartmoor prison is a lot of like real open... you can just see for miles and miles, and it's just real open ground. But if you sort of go around the corner a little bit or over the next hill, there's actually quite patches of really, really very dense forest. Like I've been down there one time. It was probably about 15. Actually,
here
wasn't that with you? Remember when I had the big stick and I was throwing the stick? You, me, and Vicky. We went on a walk.
That was around here, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the forest around there is so incredibly dense. It's like nighttime during the day in there. Yeah. So yeah, we've got to go up and have a look.
Yeah, and just to give you a sense of how many sightings have been catalogued in the UK for this. There you go. That's what it looks like when you zoom out.
Starts almost looking like a college student's artist thing with all the colours. But
funnily enough, I did find another one on a wonderful site. It's not wonderful, but Cornwall Live, which is very much like Plymouth Live. It's just a horrible news site. It's just full of adverts. I just don't know what it is with news sites these days, but they just look awful. You go into them, it's just adverts all over the place.
Doesn't even look like news anymore, isn't it?
It doesn't. It's just it's like find the news story in amongst all the ads. But this one talks about...
I always find it really scary when the ads are what you've just been talking about. That's always scary.
Yeah. I always find that...
Sometimes you don't even talk about it. Sometimes you just think, I mean, I was thinking about buying a treadmill the other day, and I'd never typed anything in to do with exercise. I was just mentioning it to my girlfriend, look, I should maybe get a treadmill and start working out during this lockdown. And I logged onto whatever site this was, and there it was, treadmills. And all of my YouTube now, in fact, the adverts are showing me treadmills.
Facebook's terrible for that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going totally off topic now, but just to go to show that sometimes these ads work. So it's targeted at me, so it's give me, Pizza Hut. Right, so it knows me well. Okay, I came onto one of these sites once, and it was advertising Himalayan salt rock crystal lights, the pink rock salt lights. And it was coming up to my wife's birthday, and I saw that advert, and I thought, that's brilliant. Smiler would love those. So I bought her a set. But it was showing me that advert because my mum had used my Amazon account to buy my wife some rock salt lights for her birthday. So because my mum had bought those rocks, it was then showing me adverts for them. And that gave me the idea to buy them as well. So then Smiler ended up getting 2 sets of salt rock lights for her birthday. But yeah, there you go.
Technology is scary.
It is scary. But
that'd be a great show, Monte. The future of technology and where it's heading. That'd be a great show.
Oh, yes.
I love talking about that as well.
Oh yeah.
Like the rise of the machines and how technology is becoming smarter.
The rise of AI.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast recently actually that talked about that, and it blew my mind completely.
Sorry, I've just got to write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
Write that down before I forget.
Whilst you're writing that down, I'll just Mickey in chat has just commented, "Where are the pubs in relation to these sightings?" And it's funny you say that actually, because near where we were just talking about up there on Princetown is one of my favourite pubs, Puma Feathers. It's actually up in Princetown, so we'll go there first for a pint, and then we'll go and have a look, see if we can see this Bigfoot.
They
and
do a
then we'll
great
go back
Sunday
for another
roast.
pint.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, because they cater to all the prison wardens and that, and they just do great food. Yeah, very good.
I'm just going to quickly shout down for a coffee. I'll be back with you in a second.
Right. Yeah.
No
You guys
worries.
keep talking.
So what was this up for, Mark?
It was about a sighting, a Bigfoot sighting in Cornwall in around 20 years ago at St Morgan, which is near Newquay. And actually St Morgan is right behind where I've got a holiday home in Newquay. So I just thought, that's interesting. It was and it talks about Deborah Hatswell's map. So that's where I got the link earlier on today. I thought about it, and I just looked, and sure enough, if you zoom in down to Newquay, it's just on the other side of Cornwall Airport, St Morgan. So yeah, we'll have to go down there one weekend and have a wander around this area. There's probably some nice walks up through these valleys and these woods. We'll take some cameras and have a look around that area as well, G.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so anyway, that was what I was just going to... Oh, you can't see that. I'm talking about a map, look, and you've got it... Oh, dear. What am I like? Hang on. Let me just
So I believe, Dan, you had another story as well.
Yes, I do.
So
Sorry,
So
that's
is this Debbie
just
Hatswell's
where...
map again, Mark?
It is, yeah. I'm just saying this is St Morgan near Newquay. There's Newquay in Cornwall, and there's that sighting there. So yeah, I think we'll have to pop down and have a look around this area and look at some of these woodlands.
Dan says, is that near the RAF base in St Morgan?
That's down here.
Yeah.
Where's St Morgan?
Because isn't St. Dawes near St. Morgan as well?
Is it that? Oh no, that's not that one.
Have you guys heard of? I know Dan, you have. But G and Monte, have you ever heard of Paul Sinclair?
No.
Paul Sinclair.
He writes a lot of really interesting books. He's been on a lot of interesting podcasts as well, to be fair. He's from around this area near Scarborough, and he does a lot of work near where I explore. So I explore on the North Yorkshire Moors, and where he writes his books about and all the mysteries that he's looking into. They come from Bempton Cliffs. You might have heard of that. There's a lot of strange phenomena going on around Bempton Cliffs, which is part of the North Yorkshire Moors. So we explore really, although it's the same part of the North Yorkshire Moors, there is a great distance between us. But it's just fascinating how he's exploring one phenomena over at one side of the North Yorkshire Moors, and I'm exploring another over at this side. It's fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Sorry, Dan. Yeah, that one. What I was talking about was the St Morgan one. Yeah, it's Newquay Airport is right next to St Morgan. Newquay Airport is St Morgan. So I'll just yeah, that's
Well, Ben, I used to live in Bramley in Leeds, and and used to get out onto the Yorkshire Moors quite a lot, and absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. I mean, I've been lucky.
And when you're out there as well, sorry, go on.
I've been lucky in life because I grew up for the first sort of part of my life in the Lake District, and then I've lived the majority of my life down here in Devon and Cornwall, but also lived up in Leeds and around Yorkshire and the Yorkshire Moors. So been lucky to live in a lot of beautiful places in the world, in this country. Sorry.
It's like when people say to me in the comments on my videos sometimes is, oh, what are you expecting to find? You're expecting to go there and discover Bigfoot? It's like, I'm not expecting to find anything. Like, it's just nice to be in these areas where people are making reports.
Yeah.
I never go out there and ever claim to find anything or even expect to see anything. But being in these areas when you're talking about this phenomena, it just, I don't know, it adds a certain something to it.
Beauty is what it has.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you can actually imagine there's been many times when I've drove through that isolated road that goes through the moors there, and there's nothing around for miles. Literally, you can just from one side to the other, just moorland and forested areas, and you just think to yourself, or you just think back on some of the stories of people that drove down that road and seen a strange craft skirting the forest line or the tree line or hovering above the road. You can just imagine these stories as you're driving through that place. I love it.
Chris from Katie Fitness said he had to bring a lad back to camp who said he'd saw the Beast of Bodmin Moor at RAF St Morgan, and they were stationed at RAF St Morgan. So, yeah.
I think Dan still had another story to go through.
Yeah, if you want to get the map back up, please.
Yep,
Mark.
will do.
It's a lot. I didn't realise you had the map, so it's a lot easier.
So that was the same.
So this time, Mark, you're going way over to South Wales.
Right, out we go.
You go into my end of my part of the world now. If you zoom in, you're looking for Welsh Bigfoot. So where it says Treorchy and Tonopandi, see where it says Pontypridd?
Pontypridd.
It's right in the centre of the map.
There?
Just
that one.
Just below the Puma.
Yeah, this one. So if you've watched my videos, you will be familiar with this, because I did introduce that I was doing a Bigfoot series, and I did mention this, but what I didn't mention, there's actual footage to go with it.
All right.
Now, I know Ben is going to be familiar with this, because this footage was in Elusive, a film about British Bigfoot that Chris Turner had put together. So basically, the YouTube link is right there as well. If you want to click onto that, Mark, and we can watch the video and see what everyone thinks. But this video is analysis of the original. But I think it's a lot better.
I'm just going to have to share
context.
that screen. But bear with me.
I did send a link as well.
The link's in the email that I sent as well, Mark.
Yeah. Pushing Tree in the UK, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Got it. From any particular point?
It can go from here.
Welcome to my video.
Hello everybody. A fellow by the name of Bigfoot Tony reached out to me and asked me to take a look at some footage he shot in the UK here not too long ago. The YouTube video is entitled Bigfoot Pushing a Tree, #Project Go and See. Now the portion we're looking at here is a little over 5 minutes into the video, and at the time he stopped to take a look at an interesting tree break that he comes across. And in the background there is a tree that is moving that apparently he didn't see until upon reviewing the video. Now as I'm rocking this back and forth, you can definitely see there's very little wind in the shot, but there is a pretty substantial tree. Looks to be about 40-50 feet high. That is definitely moving back and forth. Now this is moving forward, but the shot ends before you have a chance to see it move back. Actually his hand comes up into play and blocks it, so I've cut that part out. So of course the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to zoom into the base of the tree and see what we see. Now, I'm going to go on record here and say I know nothing about the history of sightings of any possible Bigfoot creatures in the UK. So I'm going to compare anything I see here to what we know about North American Sasquatch. And upon zooming in here to the base of the tree, which is this tree right here, you do see what appears to be a figure standing there motionless. And as I move this forward, a few seconds before the tree movement, I don't see any kind of motion of the figure itself, except for a very slight possible motion right there. If you look at what might be the shoulder here, it looks like there's a lighting change. Now that could be from the motion of the figure, or it could be the lighting level has changed due to the fact the tree above it has changed positions. Now, here's a little bit better look at it. Now this does somewhat appear to be a figure that might conform to what we know as Bigfoot here in North America. Again, I don't know anything about history of Bigfoot in the United Kingdom, But, it's possible. If you believe in the Bering Land Bridge theory that Bigfoot migrated to North America during the Ice Age across the Bering Land Bridge along with humans, then it's very possible the same thing might have happened for some kind of a westward migration across Asia and Europe into the United Kingdom during the last Ice Age as well. But like I said, we have very little information about the creatures in Great Britain. So I tried to lighten up several areas. There really wasn't a whole lot I could do with it. I got it in 1080p, but again, once you zoom in to a certain point, all you're doing after that is you're just fuzzing it up. A few more times I tried to zoom in it more and play with the lighting levels a little bit. I can't really detect any motion as definitely a hand that's at the base of the tree that's pushing it, but it is possible. There is some distortion there that might be a hand coming across, but it's really it is what it is. That's about as best as you can get. So do I think this is a Bigfoot? All I can say is, it's as possible as Bigfoot in North America. But based on this video, you can't say 100% yes or 100% no or 100% that it's not a.
So I was first aware of this from the film Elusive, and in that film, I think they come to the conclusion that what you can see there, the figure, is pareidolia. So it looks like a figure, but it's not actually a figure. It's maybe a tree stump or something that could look like a figure. And I tend to agree with that. I think that's pareidolia. But something I've been made aware of is on the map, you've got the point of this. This isn't at that place. What you're looking at is not at that place. If you've seen my video, you'll know that I talk about going on a bike ride with one of my friends. That very friend watched this video, or watched my video, then asked if there was any footage of the sighting, which I sent him this, and instantly he said, "No, that's not where it says it is." So now, to me, it's up in the air now. If it's not there, where could it be? But it's definitely pareidolia to me.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, Dan, as well. I was thinking pareidolia for the fact that I could have made at least 20, 30 different pictures of Bigfoots and different faces and other objects in that footage. So to pick one out and say that's Bigfoot amongst all the other faces that I could have seen would be ridiculous, to be fair. I think that's definitely pareidolia.
Further into the video, he talks about figures being up in the trees as well, which I think he believes in this video as well. He says could be pareidolia. The thing that baffles me is, how is that tree moving? That's the only tree that's moving.
But what I would say, the only reasonable conclusion I could possibly come to explain that is if you just look to your right, bottom right, you can see the edge of the wood there. The light is clearly coming through, and that tree that's moving is roughly further back towards the edge of the wood. And I know from when I've been out is that the edge of any wood gets absolutely battered by the wind. That's where a lot of your tree falls are going to be. So that's the only thing I could maybe think of. I mean, this isn't in the deep wood, is it? We can see the outside of it there.
No.
So, but that's that's all I can say really.
I don't.
The area it is on the map, I know, and I don't know where this could be.
Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to suggest, Dan, but I remember seeing this footage, but I don't remember it being UK. I don't know if that's what you're getting at, is that you went to where apparently this was meant to have happened and it doesn't look anything like this.
Oh, it's definitely UK. Bigfoot Tony, he's a Welsh guy. He is actually interviewed on the Elusive video. So this is definitely Wales.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is I don't know where it is for any points of reference. If it was definitely there, I could comment on it a lot better.
Interesting.
I guess this goes back to what we was talking about earlier, is that even though we are huge believers in the extraterrestrial Bigfoot phenomena, we don't always just say, everything is a Bigfoot. And I think this is a great example of it, is that we've looked at this now and been like, well, actually, no, that's just pareidolia.
Okay, I've got to ask, pareidolia. What's pareidolia?
basically, in layman's terms, it's just where the eyes or the brain make up pictures, because our brains are always eager for answers. We make up patterns from things that are out there that look familiar to us.
Like the Mars face in the mountain.
Yeah,
range.
exactly. That's
we see
Yeah,
faces and
things like
things. Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got one that I shared on Facebook a couple of years ago, where it was literally when I was living over in Tor Point, and across the road, I took a picture of my neighbour's front of their house, and because they had a car and a plant pot out the side of the front of their door. When you took a picture of it and looked at it from a certain angle, it looked like there was a woman stood next to the car with a handbag, but it's not. There's no woman there at all. It's just how your brain makes out the outline.
Yeah. I guess it's the same way as when we were kids. We'd lie on our back, looking up at the clouds, and make pictures out of clouds.
Yeah, exactly. Well, very cool. Well, I've got something sort of similar to share, because I've shared a couple of YouTube links with Mark where I was going to go on to more global sort of recent sightings. And one of them is really kind of interesting. Now, Dan and Ben, if you've seen this one before, it's the first one, by the way. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's have a bit of fun.
You haven't got a quiz, have you?
No, I haven't got a quiz.
I was about to say.
Just a bit of a laugh, really.
Right.
If you could, well, actually, before you share the picture, so it's the first picture on my email, but don't share it yet. It's the one that's the National Geographic picture. It's a still of a YouTube video.
Right.
But anyway, just to give a bit of background to this, I was watching this YouTube video, and I think this one's meant to be a sighting in Russia. Done by some young kids, some young boys. And I was talking earlier on about the humanoid or the hominid connection. And I don't know if you guys know, but scientists are finding it was always felt and believed that the founder all time, and there was scientific evidence that they had warred at some point, but actually there's more evidence appearing lately that it looks like Neanderthal and Homo sapiens were actually sharing the planet together for a lot longer than scientists originally thought, and actually there could be some chance that they interbred and bred in some way, and that's why some people are left with a more Neanderthal appearance. Anyway, this video, just if you wouldn't mind bringing up the picture, Mark, I just thought it was a bit funny because basically the background of this is it's a video. It was covered by the National Geographic. It's a bunch of boys in Russia. They go out in the quite deep snow and they're walking up to a bit of a wooded area, and then they see this really dark figure stood in the wooded area. Are you able to bring up the picture, Mark?
Is it the picture of the people sat around a table?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And so on the comments on the YouTube video, a lot of people are going, this is so fake. And if you're going to fake it, try not to have a guy that's friends with the boys who looks like he could be Bigfoot himself. That guy who sat at the table, the size of him is...
He's a famous boxer, or he was.
He was.
Yeah.
Fought David here. Yeah.
And if there's any connection to the fact that the Neanderthal men have... breeded with Homo sapiens, there. I mean, look at the size of his head compared to, and so he apparently is friends with the boys or something. Put him in a suit and stand him in a wood. Then I just thought it was a little bit funny. So I wasn't going to show the video. I just thought it was funny still, because a lot of people would comment going like, try if you're going to do a video about Bigfoot, try not to have Bigfoot sat at the table watching the video.
Yeah.
But anyway, so. Just thought it was a bit of fun. Getting on to the first video, then I've got to share it. It's the link that's just above the...
I like the way this kid's like looking across at the boxer.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then this kid here next to him is just like, nobody's going to believe this in a million years.
Yeah. The kid in the yellow t-shirt's like, at what point do you think we should tell him it was us? That like this was a joke?
Yeah. Quite funny. So anyway, the video that I wanted to share first of all, Mark, was the one that's the link above that picture in the email. I haven't got a huge amount of background to this video footage. I think I put a time stamp on it, Mark, to play it from. I think it's about 10 seconds in.
Is it the drone cam one or
It's
the
the drone
buffalo
footage.
one?
The drone footage.
The drone.
No
one.
more drone footage, G.
Yeah, and guess
Oh,
what?
we
Guess
love a
where
bit
it's
of
from?
drone footage.
It's
Guess
not from
where
Utah.
It's from Utah. Yeah.
Oh.
So hold on. Like, if you guys, Ben and Dan, if you've seen this footage before, like, try and hold off saying anything towards the end. But the interesting thing about this footage is that if you go onto YouTube and you go into the comments, most of the people in the comments can't see what you're talking about. Most people didn't see it. The first time I watched it, I didn't see it. I watched it again and then I started seeing it. If you want to just play it from 10 seconds in, Mark.
From 10.
10 seconds in.
Right.
Sorry, it's got some really awful music with it. No narration, just awful music.
Can I make it any bigger? No. Oh, there.
Yeah, you've spotted it. Well done.
Dot there.
This music sounds like some kind of a weird remix of George of the Jungle, like on acid.
Yeah.
Legend has it that this guy is actually a Russian boxer.
Very good, Dan. Very good. Nikolai Valyuf? Valyuf? Is that his name?
Yeah, Nikolai Valyuf.
I think that's Chris talking about the guy in the picture.
Yeah.
So anyway, the drone operator tries to go down and look at where that whatever it was that was running across the field ran into the woods, and you don't see anything more on the video on the footage. That's just it. But if you rewind it back to 10 seconds, Mark. Did you guys see it? Ben and Dan, did you see it?
I never until Monte said.
So it starts running. If you could just pause it a minute, you can turn the volume off as well if you want, Mark. But there's just a bit of sort of outcrop. You can see what looks like car tracks, and just I would say probably 8 o'clock away from that track, there's something that comes out from whatever it is. I don't know if it's a bush. I haven't been able to zoom in enough on this. The other thing that's interesting about this footage is it doesn't really you don't get close enough to see any detail of what it is. Can you see it now running across?
Yeah, I see it. It's there.
Yeah.
You got it, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it runs diagonally across the track.
Yeah, so it's there. I'm just trying to see where it come from.
It comes from
it's just behind this rock here. You can just see its shadow there.
Are they rocks or trees?
Well, they might be trees.
I think they're
they may be
like
bushes. Yeah.
But so this was the footage, Mark, that I was going on about, that we could do a bit of an analysis if we could have zoomed in. But I'm no expert. The only thing that I've been able to do with this footage is, and again, because I'm not a videographer, I don't know if this is playing in real time. You can never be too sure. But what I've done is kind of tried to measure the time where you see it come initially from what looks like that rock or that bush. I've tried to time the time that it takes it to get from there into the tree line of the woods. And then I've tried to kind of work out what distance I think that is from the tree line of the woods to the thing that it pops out from.
Very scientific,
and I'm guessing that it's about, judging that looks like a track made by vehicles. That's one thing that I've used to kind of try and get an element of measurement and distance. I'm guessing it's about 200 meters, if not maybe a little bit more. And whatever it is that's running across the video screen, it takes it 12 seconds to do that distance, which is pretty fast going. When
Yeah.
When you consider the world record for 100 meters is 8 point something seconds, is
Do you
it?
want to just rewind it and see if you agree with me on this sort of sense of distance? It would be interesting to get some other viewpoints on it.
So we're going to be looking at it coming out from this bush here.
Yeah.
I don't think that's 200 meters. Oh, to the tree line, yeah.
To
Yeah,
the
sorry.
tree line here. So he
Yeah.
goes out and in the tree line here. There he goes. He's off. He's crossed the track. Yeah, as Dan M's pointed out in chat, the shadow of it is quite large. From this distance.
I was thinking the same about the shadow.
I was thinking that, looking at the length of the shadow of the bushes and the trees. I mean, it is a fair sized shadow.
The other thing that I considered as well was because the footage later on, the drone goes down almost to ground level, so you can you get a sense of how high the trees are, and then going back and then seeing the figure run into the tree line and seeing how big the figure looks. I'm again guessing that it's something that's pretty minimum.
Are we
6
assuming
foot.
that this thing is running from the drone? Are we saying that this thing knew about the drone, or it was unaware of the drone? Because I think that matters.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Again, there's not. If you go and find this video, there's not any detail in the description. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say confidently whether.
The reason I'm saying that is because if it was aware of the drone, staying put would have been the more sensible thing to do, because we can't see it there. If this was a hoax and you wanted to be seen, you would start running.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, if this is a highly intelligent creature that's got really sensitive hearing, I'm assuming that it would hear this drone, and the best thing to do there would be to stay still. We all know that if you start making any kind of a movement, predators are based. Tigers, leopards, they're all based on movement. They look for antelopes running.
But
And
then
so-
you know that there's a lot of footage, or there's been footage of Bigfoot with offspring and young, and if its young was in that woods, and it could hear something come towards it, what's its primal instinct going to be?
yeah.
Not to sit there and hide behind the rock. It's going to be to run to its young. But that's just looking at it from another perspective. But yeah, I would say again that it's a minimum 6 foot, whatever it is that's running. So it's
Because the way I'm thinking about this now is, one, I mean, why are they filming this specific part? It's not exactly a beauty attraction. I mean, I've done it myself. I get out to these places where there's nothing to film, but I'll still stick the drone in the air. So it could be just a case of that. But then I start thinking that it's just a coincidence then that this guy is filming nothing of interest, and yet something runs, which is exactly what someone hoaxing a video like this would want to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I do agree with you there, because there is a bit at the very beginning of the video where the drone almost does a complete 90-degree angle. So it's almost like the operator decided that he was going to go that way. Originally, he was going.
Yeah, have they got walkie-talkies? Is he telling his friend, like, now, run now? Do you know what I mean?
But I just thought it was an interesting one. It's unfortunate that there's not much context to it. The only thing that I could pretty much say to you is that it's from Utah, and that's as much background.
I think the distance, that you worked out was interesting though, G. That does look like a fair distance, and if you said that you timed it at 12 seconds, then I don't understand how that's possible. So that is interesting.
Yeah, it might be 14 seconds. Huh?
Assuming that the footage has not been sped up.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I said, is that I don't know whether it's showing it in real time and whether, it's been done a little bit differently, because it is a bit kind of jumpy in places. But you can see the size of the trees. You can see the size.
Do we
of the
see
trees
anything inside there at this point? Like, is there any movement in there?
He doesn't capture any movement in there. Which again, if you were going to hoax it, maybe you would want to do that. Something.
Yeah.
I don't think these trees are as big as what they immediately look like they are, because you see the size of the tracks here. You imagine a vehicle on these tracks. these are
True.
quite young trees. These are very
Yeah.
thin young trees.
But I would still say
don't
they're
think they
10
look-
meters. And
Yeah. I was just looking back because he looked quite large when he come out from behind that tree or whatever it is. But then when you look at it from this angle, you realise that actually there are large trees here, and these are actually small, like shrubs. They're not as big as
Yeah.
what you. When you see it from side on, you realise that these aren't as big as they look, and it's just the fact that the sun is very low down in the sky that actually creates these long shadows. So yeah, these
Yeah,
are
I've got-
small
That
shrubs.
actually looks like some kind of ruins. Like it looks like there's some ruins there. If you look to the left,
Here.
bottom left, that looks like a roof, an old
Yeah,
farmhouse
you can
roof.
see it from this
And I'm
angle
just
as
looking
well.
at this
It's
cluster
here.
in the middle.
yeah, there's
Yeah, and
I
if you just
think-
move over to the left now with the cursor across the track, there's a little square object there as well, like a building.
Here.
Just to your right, if you go like 1 o'clock now. No, yeah, there.
It-
Yeah.
if
There's
you
another one
watch from the very beginning of the footage, there's actually I think another structure that you see just before what we can see on the picture right now. I think there's
Yeah.
or is that the same one? I don't know. Yeah, it's the same one, I think. I just thought it was interesting though, because it was one that was because there
Yeah,
was
no, it
so
is
little
definitely interesting.
detail with it, that it was one to sort of like study a little bit and use some amateur kind of science to try and explain it a little bit. But I thought it was interesting.
I'd like
How-
to study this footage some more because it wouldn't surprise me if there's other people hidden in this footage somewhere or other movement from people in this footage somewhere.
Well, I'll share the
I've got a feeling that there might be.
we'll share the link anyway when we upload the episode in the description. But I'll send you the link after the show.
Yeah, that'd be
the
awesome.
video. I've got one other piece of video footage to show, which is actually from a webcam.
Is that the today?
Oh, no, like not a webcam. What am I saying? Security cam.
Is that the today buffalo arrive at Faithful Geezer Yellowstone National Park one?
It's the one that's underneath the picture of the Bigfoot on the camera phone.
I think it's
It
this one.
says play from 1:30 webcam
Hang
footage.
on. I think it's this one.
And this is the last one I've got. So share.
This one.
Oh yeah, the famous footage of the guy stood behind the buffalo. Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
a family of them that walk over the ridge in the distance.
Yeah. So if you play it from 1:30 mark, and what you're looking at is this is from Yellowstone National Park, and it's buffalo that have appeared. If you look at the ridge at the back, you see a bunch of figures walking across. Can you see them?
Yeah.
Right. So the two buffalo are in the center of the picture.
Yeah.
Look directly up behind the tree line from there, but go back to
Yeah,
1:30.
you'll see a tree that's got no shrubbery on it, like just the trunk up on the horizon in the background there.
Oh yeah.
To the left of that, now you'll see
Oh,
them
yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
And there's several of them. There's like 2 or 3 of them.
I actually believe this footage. I actually do. I've seen.
And then you see them again later when you go forward to where the 2 middle buffalo are almost out of the picture. They are then come down and they're on the bottom level, the same level as the buffalo are on. And you see them walk in from the right-hand side of the picture.
Where? Do I just let it play out?
I can't remember. I could only remember the start point.
All right. It's a competition. First one to spot the second. In chat, if anybody sees, say now. I imagine it'll be from the background there.
Yeah, it's in between the sort of gap of the trees that I think you see them come into play.
Have you seen Thinker Thunker's breakdown of this, G?
No,
It's brilliant.
I've literally only come across this today. Today was first time seeing this, but I'm sure they come out
Oh,
again.
yeah.
There they
Yeah,
are.
There.
Oh,
I
I would
believe
love
that's
to-
the kids going to look for that Russian boxer.
Yeah.
But I'd be really interested to see more analysis.
Yeah, Thinker Thunker, I think that's his YouTube name. He does a really good breakdown of that, where he actually takes the people off the image and stands them next to the buffalo to give a height comparison, and goes into a lot more
Yes,
depth. But he breaks it.
that's the instant thing that I thought when, because it didn't move kind of ape-like. It doesn't look like an ape. But then I thought, well, hold on a minute. If that, I know I've seen buffalo in person, and buffalo are huge.
Yeah,
And so if that is the buffalo in at the front, and then that's further away in the distance, but that's got to be like some sort of like 8 to 10 foot.
well, not just one. There's like 4 or 5 8 to 10 foot
Yeah.
people there walking in single file in deep snow with no problems. So it kind of rules out your everyday human to me at this point. But yeah, Thinker Thunker did a really good breakdown of that.
I don't know why I put that this was on a webcam though. It was on some sort of, it's like a stationary cam that's in Yellowstone National Park or something. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it is. It is Yellowstone National Park. It's the webcam that looks over Old Faithful Geezer. It says it in the title there across the top of the thing.
Right, okay.
Smiler, are you telling me I was breathing down my mic then? Is that what I was doing?
Yeah.
Sorry. Apologies if I was deafening you all with Darth Vader like breathing.
So our conclusion on this one is that we think there's some element of genuineness to this one.
Yeah, it's strange. Probably it definitely needs more investigating.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think the chances of having a family of 4 or 5 8-foot people walking that close to, but I mean, would you walk that close to buffalo in snow with your 8-foot kids?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Seems
think
a bit
I think I brought 2 good examples there. I was
Yeah.
a little bit nervous that they weren't going to be well received, but yeah, it seems. And Mickey was saying about the other one that we were showing the footage beforehand. It's in the middle of nowhere and it's frightened by the drone and ran straight for cover. Animal instincts, but massive and fast. So yeah, it'd be really interesting, Ben, for you to have a bit of a better look at that one. And
Yeah, I will do. I can't wait to study that a bit more because I've got a hunch that there will be more movement in there. I don't know why I think that. I just think with the buildings, the fact that it broke cover to run right in front of the path of the drone, and the drone was just looking in the right place at the right time. I just think, I don't know, it needs a bit more investigation.
That is a common thing that comes up with drone footage now, though, isn't it? That people say,
Yeah.
well, why did the drone catch it? But
Yeah.
I guess drones are still, it's like a bit like Google Earth. Google Earth still picks up things that it didn't mean to pick up. So never know, but it'd be interesting to look into it a little bit more. But I think we've covered the Bigfoot subject pretty well.
I do.
It's
been
really
great.
interesting. Really interesting. It's given us some real food for thought. And I think it's going to be one of those things that where I thought a few years ago that this was a subject that was going to die away, I think it's just getting more interesting. As more tools go out to the masses, the more information that comes in, the more things we've got to pore over.
Yeah, and actually there's more people that are coming forward that are from like a scientific background that are actually starting to consider some of the options, like we were saying earlier, in terms of it being a either a primate that's not fully been catalogued yet and discovered and whatever. So there's lots of different elements to it, but yeah, that's why I've really delved into it in the last 3 years, because I find it extremely interesting.
Yeah. And the fact that religions all over the world now are introducing extraterrestrials, or the idea of extraterrestrials, into their belief systems, the fact that the Pentagon are releasing footage that they say they can't explain and is the true meaning of the word UFO. I mean, everybody seems to be getting on board now with the idea that we are alone and we probably are being visited. So all the cards are off the table, as they say.
Yeah. I think we definitely now we've got some information about even there being Bigfoot sightings in the southwest of England. I think once lockdown opens up and we can get back out into the world, we'll be we'll be visiting some of these places, and I think we'll be coming back to a Bigfoot Part 2 Monte Zone later in the year to see what new things we found.
Well, maybe we could invite Dan and Ben to come down and stay in your holiday home in Newquay.
We could all go on a Bigfoot
together
adventure
and go to
awesome.
The location near Newquay.
That'd
awesome.
be great.
Yeah.
It's not just the Bigfoot stuff we can do. We can do UFO stuff as well, because it's a hotspot for UFOs.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of haunted places as well.
Yeah.
It's been a really good show, and I'm really loving how talkative the guys have been on chat this evening. You've all been brilliant, putting your points of view in. It's been great.
I've just been put straight in the chat as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. I'm grounded for 9 weeks, guys. Sorry.
I can't see the chat. How come I can't see the chat?
Oh, it's you'd need it up on your phone or something. You need
on another device
YouTube thing open.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't put it naturally because I don't stream in StreamYard. You don't see it. Yeah, you need a YouTube browser open or something. Basically, Becky's just reminding Dan that she's having twins in 9 weeks.
The first I've heard of it.
so Daniel's not going anywhere.
No. I'm grounded. Sorry.
Yeah. Later in the year, Daniel, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Well, I'm sure we can have you guys back on again on a future Monte Zone episode if you want to come on, because we had Dan on for when we were doing UFO sightings, and I know that you're really interested in that, Ben. We're going to do some haunting stuff coming up soon, but I definitely want to wait till after lockdown for that one, because Mazza McBob gave me a book for my birthday. Mazza's Monty's sister, and it's all about haunting sites in Plymouth where we live, so it'd be good to go out to some of them on location and get some footage before we maybe cover that subject. But we should have a haunting one and a ghost one coming up soon.
Be awesome.
Yeah, really cool. Right, well, happy birthday, Ben. Thank you for coming and joining us tonight. Very much
thank you. It's been
appreciated.
an absolute pleasure. It's been nice to meet you guys as well, and talk to like-minded people as well. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes, you've opened my
Thank
eyes
you,
to the
guys.
subject, which is just always a great thing for these shows. So yes, I don't know what are we talking about in 2 weeks' time, G. I don't know. We haven't discussed.
Oh, I don't know, but can we do the AI, the future of
Rise of the Machines.
Rise of the Machines.
Rise of the Machines.
Missing 411 would be a good one as well.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah.
What's missing 411?
Oh, gee. Don't do this to me. You need to look into David Paulides, Missing 411. He's an ex-police officer who basically stumbled across these stats that say tons of people are going missing from national parks all around the world under very mysterious circumstances, and a lot of them do tie into like the Bigfoot phenomena, but there's other strange cases as well, like children going missing with no shoes on the feet and turning up miles away in places that they could have never got to, and when they come back they talk about these big hairy creatures that look like bears that kept them. It's really weird, but it's fascinating as well.
Wow.
And there's so many cases as well. Thousands upon thousands of cases. I mean, he's got David Paulides. He's got about 12 books, hasn't he?
Yeah, and there's some stuff on Amazon Prime as well. If you go on Amazon Prime and type in Missing 411, you'll be hooked.
Yeah. No, I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen it come up on my suggestions actually. So, yeah.
Footage I shared at the start, the Sierra sounds, that came from one of the films.
The other option I think we were talking about, Monty, that we were going to do was reincarnation.
Yes, that was another thing you wanted to talk about. Yeah. So we've got a lot of possible subjects.
And we'll share with everybody as soon as we know what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about
the
it
Mandela
afterwards.
effect is another one as well.
The what?
The Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the fact that people thought he died.
It's not just Mandela. It's about Yeah.
in prison.
But it's a host of things, like it's not just Mandela, it's titles of films and lyrics in songs. And
I guess it's similar to what I was saying about the Patterson footage, that I had the Mandela effect, that I just naturally thought it was fake and had been debunked.
Yeah.
A famous one is what's the robot from Star Wars?
C-3PO?
Yes.
Yeah.
They think he's all gold. Go and have a look. Go and have another look at one of his legs.
Yes.
Just assume he's all gold, but one of his legs is actually silver.
Yeah.
Is it similar to when people say that ET says ET phone home when actually ET doesn't say ET phone home?
Yeah,
What
it's
does he
that
actually
sort of thing. Yeah, it's misremembering.
home, and then the boy says, "Do you want to phone home?" He never says phone home. Yeah,
that's blown my mind a little bit, because I always thought it was ET phone home.
Yeah,
No.
and me.
Yeah,
That's
ET,
so strange.
Go look at it. ET says ET home, and then the boy goes, "You want?"
Yeah, now you're saying it, I can. Now you're saying it, I can picture that, but in my head, I always remembered it as ET phone home. Strange.
And me.
The Matrix would be a good one. Living in a simulated universe.
Yeah, another good one.
Oh my gosh, there's so many topics.
Well,
That's
we've
good,
got a
it's
whole
good.
first season
Yeah,
to
that's good.
go. A few more episodes.
I think the technology one will be a good one for the next one. G, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, G Star.
very much.
As always, thank you everyone in chat. Thank you, Mickey, Katie, Fitness, Becky, Smiler, Dan M, and Roger. Maz and Bob, thank you for joining us. Thank you, D-Bot, for being there. Your contribution is always fantastic on these shows, and yes, it's great to have you along. And we'll see.
Can
you.
I just really give a quick plug?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course you can.
Thank you.
Both Daniel and Ben's links will be in the description, in the bottom underneath. Yes, please give your channel a plug, Ben.
Brilliant, thank you. So anybody who's in the chat, anyone who's interested in thought-provoking topics, whether it be the paranormal, the UK Wildman, Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, etc. I talk about a host of different things on my channel. Like I say, it is all thought-provoking. Please do head over to the 401 Files on YouTube and subscribe. You'll see me over there. Chat to me in the comments box. It's always nice to meet a few of you guys as well. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
I can contest that the videos are excellent. I've watched some of them. In fact, I've commented on a few, Ben, but under my other YouTube account, which is the Space King. So if you see the Space King come up in your comments, that's
Brilliant.
me.
Thank you.
But yeah, they're really, really good. And just to mention as well, Dan, who does the Devon UFO group, just before we came on air, I was actually on the page, and somebody on there shared a fantastic picture recently in the last few days of, where was it taken, Dan?
It was up towards Minehead or Burnham or Western, somewhere not far from Bristol.
Amazing picture of lights in the sky. Looks like something off a science fiction movie. Check it out. It's on the
I'll
UFO
send that
Devon
picture
group.
over to you, Ben.
Yeah,
it's
brilliant. Thank you, Dan.
amazing.
Yep.
Cool, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you. It's been
everyone.
a pleasure. Thanks.
See you next
Thank you.
time.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.